Welcome everyone to Feather and Fur, your host Brad Hurlebaus, and we are back. I know it's been a little bit, about a month, maybe a month and a half since my last episode, between all the ICAST craziness and just the summer craziness. We took a little bit of a break, but we're back, and today we've got on Gabe Stone from the Ruffed Grouse Society. Welcome to the show, Gabe.
Yeah, thanks for having me, Brad. I appreciate it.
Yeah, this timing's great, especially with grouse season coming up, Ruffed Grouse Society's annual Grouse Camp coming up. It's just perfect time to get you on the show, and we can kind of chat about you, how you got involved, and then everything Ruffed Grouse Society has going on.
Cool. Yeah, sounds like a plan for me. Great time of year for everybody with hunting dogs because we can get back out in the woods again. Maybe not necessarily running on birds just yet, but at least getting the dogs out and stretching their legs on forest roads and whatnot. So glad to be here.
Absolutely. No longer are we just tied to water or dog training areas. We are now that it's open back up as of today.
Yeah, I get the look every day from my dogs of like, okay, why are we still in the yard? This little acre of fenced in, like I appreciate it, but this isn't quite cutting it. This time of year, it starts to get a little thin for them.
Yeah, and we're starting to. It's cooled down a little bit here. It's not that crazy heat we had a week, 2 weeks ago.
Yeah, that makes it a whole lot better as well. I have to agree for myself and the dogs.
Right. I will say this, like I used to run like when I had younger dogs. I mean, Pippa's almost 12. I don't run her like I used to. I keep her in shape, but not that kind of shape. Running in the heat, once you start to read your dogs, I felt like as long as you condition for it, it's fine. Bring a lot of water, learn how to read your dogs. But the one thing I did notice is like come fall, boy, were my dogs in shape.
Oh
Like when
yeah.
they had that cool air and those good conditions, because they were just so used to running farm fields, alfalfa fields, wherever I could run them throughout all of summer, like just working with different farmers and whatnot, being like, oh yeah, you can run the hay, we just cut it, or yeah, go run the alfalfa, whatever. It didn't matter. Just putting all those miles on, letting the dog run. The type of shape they were in was just incredible. I think about that now. I'm like, man, could I even keep up?
Yeah, right. Exactly. It's always good for you too. Yeah, I have
Right.
a cycle. I lose about I don't know 15 pounds myself once the end of season is once the end of season's on us to the beginning. So I understand how that goes for sure.
It's good. It's good. It's a good way to get back out and exercise. Like not even thinking that's not even exercise, right? Because then it's a purpose. So it's good.
Exactly. Exactly. Functional exercise.
Right. So how did you get involved in the outdoors? Did you grow up hunting? Did you grow up fishing? Or did you take it upon yourself and just jumped into this crazy world?
So yeah, I grew up hunting and fishing. I'm originally from southern Michigan. It was always southeast Michigan in the lower peninsula. It was always, I mean, I don't know when I shot my first deer. First legal year I could, whether that's 8 or 10 or whatever that is. Squirrel hunting with my dad, chasing turkeys, all that. And bird hunting always had this really kind of unique romanticized allure to me because I heard all the stories of the times past from my dad of chasing pheasants on, these farm fields that are now subdivisions, or even rough grouse where we were in the right in the base of the thumb. He always called them ruffled grouse. It wasn't until after I think I shot my first one that I found out that it was a ruffed grouse. But yeah, growing up, really into big game, really into fishing. My dad's a big time walleye fisherman, gets into the salmon as well. It's always a part of that. But the bird hunting, I would have to say, was kind of, I don't know, kind of catchy term, but adult onset. Like I completely took that on myself to go up to the UP, and I had a camping trip planned. I said, you know what, man, I've been reading these articles and like Gray's, what is that? Gray's hunting and fishing, or no, Gray's outdoors, sporting, something, doesn't matter.
Sure,
Some of
sure.
these magazines about bird hunting in the North Woods. I'm like, man, I'm going up there on this camping trip. I'm gonna grab a shotgun and try my hand at it. And I honestly, I don't know how I managed to custer up, but I ended up shooting 2 rough grouse in my first woodcock without a dog, without a real clue of where I should be going or where I should be looking for them. And ever since then, it grabbed a hold of me like nothing else ever has. I got on the waiting list for a dog. Got the dog, Josie. She's a now 3.5-year-old Llewellyn setter, and that was right in the peak of COVID.
Sure.
And I decided I was going to quit my job at that time and train the dog. We didn't know, what was going on with all the COVID-19 stuff. And I bought a van that's now is nicknamed the Bird Van, and spent my summer training the dog and figuring out what to do with her, and building a relationship and working on the van. And that first season, we loaded up and we took off for almost 4 months. 3.5 months or so. And I've never looked back ever since.
That's awesome. Like,
yeah,
like that's jumping all in. Like you go out hunting for a weekend camp and you shoot a couple grouse and a woodcock. And I'm really impressed you retrieved them all too. Like those birds can be hard to find without a dog. Like that.
Yeah, I am blown away that I found them to begin with, because looking back, it was not an ideal cover. I have no idea how I happened to stumble upon the woodcock. I mean, that's just sheer luck.
Sure.
But I was not in sheer cover or in good cover. And they just connected. I certainly shot at a couple other ones that, probably still living today. But it's funny because on my way up there, just some little dirt 2-track road had this little sign that somebody must have put on the end of it, and it said Partridge Lane. I said, that's probably about as good a sign as ever. So I went down there, and that's off that road is where I shot my first ruffed grouse.
That's awesome. Yeah. And then just to take that experience, be like, all right, time to get a dog. And the fact I know you went like all in on the dog. Like I know what breeder you went with and everything else, and you can call them out if you want to, like as long as you're still on good terms with them. But
yeah, absolutely. Kyle's a great friend of mine. I have 2 Llewellyn setters out of Paint River Setters. Kyle Warren, he's been training dogs, all sorts of dogs and bird dogs, and really, really fine line of what I consider a fine line of setters. And Josie, she's, like I said, she's 3.5 now. And then Lila is my little one. She is 1.5 years old. She was actually born my first day of working with RGS. So I took that as a good omen too.
Right. Yeah. Like, how do you get timing like that?
Exactly. I mean, I was on the list and I knew one was coming. But yeah, I got the text message the day after the second day of working with RGS, and said, hey, yep, pups are on the ground last night. And I couldn't believe it. I'm like, well, chalk that up as good omen.
That's a sign. Yeah. It's as good as Partridge Lane, right?
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Exactly. Kind of full circle.
But no, I mean, the Paints are a gorgeous, gorgeous setter. I mean, he also does phenomenal photography. He's got great camera work, and his dogs are super photogenic, and they're amazing performers in the field too. So that's like you went like all, like in my opinion, like from being like never grouse hunting to shooting you went all in on the dog. Like there's no doubt about that in my mind.
I always knew, and a lot of it comes back to, seeing the pictures in these old sporting magazines or this or whatnot I was always so attracted to the setters. And at that time, I didn't know a Llewellyn from a Ryman or this or that or whatever. It just was purely aesthetic, I think, initially, which kind of planted that seed in my head. And then I'd met some over the years, and I knew without a doubt that I wanted to have a setter. And I wanted a predominantly closer working dog, and I called a couple breeders and connected with Kyle, and I barked up that guy's tree until it happened. So I give him a lot of, he took me under his wing. Both my dogs are in his breeding program. So they're both intact females, and we have a really great relationship where we work together. And sometime, hopefully this first litter of Josie's last year, she came into heat. What was it? The last week of October. So that was a little navigating there to manage that. But she had her first litter at the end of December. 4 great, healthy little pups. Some of the folks that got those I'll be hunting with hopefully this fall. So yeah, it works out.
That's
An
awesome.
awesome guy, and he's so committed to his dogs and the betterment of the breed and the genetics behind it. And I've learned a lot from him.
That's good. I mean, it's always great to work with amazing breeders, one that take true responsibility for the breed and their breeding practices and breed to truly better the breed and look at all aspects other than just drive. I mean, there's so much more to it than just drive.
Yeah, I have to agree.
Like from little things. And like I had Michael Ship on, we were talking griffs, and he's like, well, I breed for feet. Like I want specific webbing in the feet, and I breed for this and I breed for that. And I'm like, feet is one thing I've never thought about for breeding. To be honest, I never thought about that.
Right,
I never thought about
exactly.
like how webbed their feet are. And he was talking about that. I'm like, that's the level of breeder I want to work with. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
Like when you're taking the breed to a level that people are like, wait, that's possible? Like, I never would have thought of that.
yeah.
Like, and I think Kyle's the same way with how he is with those Llewellyns. From what I've heard of him, I've never had a direct conversation with him, but I've chatted with you and other people that have known him, and he's very well respected in the industry. And I think he's very great at doing the same thing with the Llewellyns and making like really keeping that breed true.
Yeah, I would. Again, I don't be getting into the genetics and everything that goes into that, and everything that is selected for and looked for at is completely out of my pay range.
Mm-hmm.
But I have full confidence in him and where he's been. And that, there's a lot of great breeders out there.
Oh, agreed.
That this has happened to be the one I picked, and we have a great relationship, and I'm not looking back.
There you go. And then you jumped in a van, and we really didn't look back.
Yeah, exactly. Down by the river.
I just found I think it was the Sharptail Grouse Society event that we were having a couple beers at, and
Yeah.
I found out about that van, and I'm like, man, like way to start off like your first season with your dog, like just putting it on birds.
Yeah, I mean, in retrospect, we hunted too much for how old she was.
Sure.
But I think she had the best time of her life while she was. I know for a fact she did. So if I went back, I probably wouldn't have hunted her as. What I would have done is got like 3 at the same time. I went back. But yeah, we put some miles on that year. We spent the majority of our time in the UP of Michigan, got over to Wisconsin a little bit, went out west to South Dakota, chased roosters, wild roosters in the southern lower in Michigan. If anybody's listening, there's only about 6 of them left. So no need to go chasing after them.
Not the destination state you're looking for that. Neither's Wisconsin. I mean, unless you want to chase DNR raised birds, the wild population here is very slim.
Yeah. But there's pockets. I mean, there's, all jokes aside, there's definitely pockets of them. But yeah, that first year with Josie just cemented something in me that I think I was looking for a while. I've always wanted that deep, connection and deep passion to something. I was always a hunter, and fisherman kind of a broad sense. But once you add the dog into it, the camaraderie of people, the fact that, I'm moving, before I got into bird hunting, I would do 10, 15 all day sits, bow hunting sometimes, and a little bit of gun hunting for deer. And it's just, that would drive me nuts. And now I can move around. I can make noise. I can interact with people. I can take people out with me. It's just completely changed the game for me.
There's something to be said. Like I'm the same way. I know guys that are able to jump in a tree stand and just let the world melt away and just be 100% in the moment. That's not me. Like it's too still. It's too quiet. I've got too many thoughts going through my head now when I have nothing to think about, if that makes sense. Like it's just my mind's pulled in every direction. Whereas like with upland hunting, I can truly focus on the moment I'm in. I can watch the dog.
Yeah.
I'm watching where I walk. I mean, I don't walk trails. We break bush like all the time. Like we're not walking logging roads for the most part. Like I'm in the woods. I'm going over trees like I'm focused on my every footstep. I'm focused on where's the dog, listening, watching everything. And I can actually stop thinking.
Yep. I'm very present when I'm out hunting, or even when I'm running the dogs, or even on, like we were talking about, the summer, evening walk or morning walk in the alfalfa field. It's a different sense of presence that I get from that, and peacefulness, I guess you could say.
I would agree. That's a good way to word it. And that's one of my biggest, that's why, and it all comes back to the dog for me, like so much with the dog, like upland hunting. Pippa's almost 12 and she's a rescue and she doesn't do good with other dogs. So, I mean, I got a 1-horse stable right now. And if I have to retire her, I'm just not sure I can do the grouse hunting then. I just don't, I'm not going to go to walk in the woods by myself. The
Yeah,
dog for me is such a key piece of it all. Um, I don't know what I'll do, to be honest. I hope I don't have to make the choice.
yep. I hope you don't either.
I mean, that might be my little window because I'm a passionate bird hunter. I love upland hunting. When the weather gets cold and we have gun deer season and the woods get slightly dangerous for people who like, well, that gun deer season, I really focus hard on waterfowl hunting. That's just what I do. Like gray wave, like watch the dog, everything else. Um, maybe if I wind up in that year window where things don't work out, maybe that's when I take the bow out west to shoot elk or antelope or something like that. And because then I don't feel guilty sitting in a tree stand, because that's my problem, right? Like I can have big bucks on camera and like I go sit in the tree with the bow and I'm just guilty. Like I should be out running the dog. My
Yep.
dog's at home. I'm sitting in this tree and my dog's at home. So that's why that really pushed me away from anything but hunting with the dogs, was partially the guilt and then just the enjoyment of watching them work.
I completely agree. I was a very, very passionate bow hunter. And I like to consider myself one. I haven't bow hunted in 3 years. But I have a funny story, but I always feel so guilty. Just like you said, when you go out, I still eat a lot of venison. So I partake in, the firearm season. But I just feel guilty that time of year leaving my dog. And I think it was last year or maybe the year before. I was hunting at my parents' house. It was like day 2 or 3 of the firearm season. I went all the way out to my stand early in the morning and got in there and kind of nestled in, and all of a sudden, like, man, that doesn't really sound like a deer. What does that sounds kind of like a coyote or something? And it's just starting to get light, and I turn back, and here comes Josie. My parents let her out, and she went right for me at the bottom of the tree, and I ended up like, oh, all right. So I got down and took her back, and I ended up shooting a nice deer either later that night or the next day. But it was just like, okay, she feels it too.
Mm-hmm. That's funny though. It isn't. It isn't. Thankfully, like you were on private property, really well controlled. Like that's like always like that's why during that 10-day season in Wisconsin, my dog stays home. I
Yeah,
don't, unless I'm waterfowl hunting, like out in the marsh or something where I don't even have to worry about it. But other than that, like that's one part of the season where I just don't run the dog.
it's a good time, especially if you've been hunting really hard. It's a good time to take a break, at least the first portion of it. That's when
Sure.
you get a lot of your action then. And then if I'm gonna hunt over past the first couple days, I am very selective about the cover that I'm going into, and might not be the normal type of cover that I'd be in, but there's still usually some birds there. But it tries to get me as far away from firearm deer hunters, and they have the right to be out there too. Absolutely,
100%.
I support that completely. I just don't want risk management is what it is.
I mean, risk management for the dog, and also like I get how many? What we get 3 months almost to hunt grouse. I mean, I'll give him 10 days. To be honest, like maybe I'm too considerate. Like I have just as much right to be out there grouse hunting as they do deer hunting, but I got 3 months to. I got
Or the
3 months
squirrel
to do it.
hunters.
Right.
Yeah.
Exactly. Right. I mean, I've got 3 months to do it. They got 10 days to try to put venison in their freezer. My dog can normally take the break. Let them. There's probably something that's got to heal on the dog at that point, anyways. By that time in the season, that could use a little bit of a break. And to me, it's not only the safety factor. It's like you guys only get 10 days. There's other things I can chase.
Absolutely.
And I got to fill my freezer too. So I mean, I got to get out there and shoot it.
Same.
I mean,
yeah.
But I mean, it's great when you see like people that can share the woods like that too, right? That respect everyone else and know like you have just as much of a right to be here as I do, and you don't like. It's not worth fighting over. Everybody's got the same public land to enjoy.
Absolutely. I agree.
So, your dog was born on the day you started at the Ruffed Grouse Society.
Lila
Like
was.
Lila,
Yeah. She
right?
was
Your young
born
one.
April 4th, 2022, and then Josie was born April 3rd, 2020.
So I'm using that as my segue into Ruffed Grouse Society. Like, what exactly do you do?
So my title, I'm the regional engagement coordinator for the Western Great Lakes. So my territory, I have all of the state of Wisconsin and the western portion of the Upper Peninsula of Michigan. So as the engagement coordinator, RGS, Ruffed Grouse Society, American Woodcock Society, we're a member-based organization. So made up of chapters. And I am the point of contact or the bridge between the RGS national office and our volunteer committees and and the people that make up their chapters. So I do a lot of work with them, planning events, reaching out with other conservation organizations and trying to co-offer things, as well as, a lot of it comes down to fundraising. But the main thing is I'm that point of contact for the national organizations here locally on the ground for Wisconsin and the Western Upper Peninsula of Michigan when it comes to all member-based things. Like in the state of Wisconsin here, we have a lot of other staff that are in the conservation delivery side of things, which is a whole different realm. And it's really, truly the bread and butter of our organization. But I work with the members and with the chapters and the committees that make them up directly.
And the chapter, Ruffed Grouse Society, you guys do an amazing job for conservation. You do an amazing job for habitat. I had John on and we talked about forestry and forestry management, and that was an amazing episode. And it's really the chapters. They're such a huge part, and they need support from someone like you to help walk them through like different things to help their chapters grow, to help their chapters do better in the donation side, just to help their chapters be a more significant and impactful part in it all.
Absolutely. And shout out to my chapters and all the rest of our chapters across the nation. They do a great job, and they've been here before me, and they're going to be here, after me, hopefully in another however many years that's going to be. We've been around since 1961, so by no means are we a new organization. But having that and then pairing that with, like you said, John Staggerwall, our forest conservation director, just a wealth of knowledge, and all our other conservation delivery staff sprinkled all across the country.
And it's great to see, like, I've hunted some Ruffed Grouse Society projects before. I've stumbled into the lands that you guys have had your fingers in to turn them into better habitat, and that's such a huge part of it. And it's great to see also the efforts through the different chapters to help engage youth and re-engage adult hunters, like to continue to grow not only just membership like for Ruffed Grouse Society, but also to grow that outdoor community as we start to lose people that start to lose these elderly hunters and the ones that are moving away from it, to kind of backfill that. As we've seen while people don't believe it, hunter numbers are truly declining.
Yeah, absolutely. And this is something, that if we don't have the next generation are passionate about this, care about protecting it, care about the larger ethic of conservation at large, it's not looking good in however many years down the road. And, not to be on the scare tactic side of things, but we have a tremendous wealth of passionate, committed people in our organization and other conservation organizations all across this nation. Hell, across the globe. So having that backbone of people there to support and be a voice for it currently is important, but also having that ability to bring up the next generations and kind of pass the torch is the bread and butter to the whole deal.
Agreed. And it's not, one thing I've noticed personally throughout my experience, there's a lot of focus on youth, which is great. But I feel like there's a lot of times there's a gap on that just after college group that wants to find a way into it, but doesn't know how.
Yeah, absolutely. I completely agree. I think there's a lot of people that were raised, like you asked me earlier, raised kind of in a hunting family, or maybe their grandpa hunted, it wasn't their identity, but they partake. And then you grow up and you get married, or you go to college, or you go to a trade school or whatever, and life kind of gets in the way. That's where, when we talk about R3, recruitment, retention, and reactivation, the third of reactivation, a lot of these people have that seed planted in them, and it just needs a little bit of water to really make them pop out and flourish. And another really interesting part from my perspective is the food aspect of it. And that movement there is, I have seen in my role and outside of it, that a lot of people are interested in connecting, re-engaging with hunting for that food aspect, which I think is great.
Agreed. I've seen that as well. I've actually introduced hunters that really started it because they wanted to know where their meat came from. They wanted to know how to process their own meat. I've taught people how to butcher deer, butcher birds. That's so that way there, because they wanted to know what was in my meat. Well, if you know where you shot, if you know where it lives, you have a good idea of what it ate, right? Like if you know where you shot that deer, you have a good idea of the crops it was eating on and everything else. People kind of know the range. It's pretty easy to kind of have an idea of a range of deer depending on the terrain. Same with birds and everything else. And then they know, like, if they process it themselves, they know, like, only God in my hands have touched this thing. That's it.
Yep. I would say approximately 90% of people that I have taken out hunting or kind of introduced to hunting, whether that be deer or turkey or ruffed grouse and woodcock or pheasant, whatever, came from the food aspect. That is what got them interested enough to actually get out in the field. Folks that had no correlation to hunting in the past.
They didn't grow up hunting. They didn't have anybody that took them out. They're just older, and they're like, I want to know where my food comes from.
Yep. And I want to be a part of that.
Right. And that is a very big piece. And I've heard that, like, I've introduced a couple people, not nearly 90% of who I've worked with, but I kind of I've taken on a different approach, whereas I take veterans out hunting and I teach them how to hunt as a way to get back into the field. And just like with fishing and kayaking and different outdoor stuff, as a way to, like, refocus, regroup, and kind of like give them another outlet for their mental health. So from that standpoint, I've introduced quite a few people from a mental health standpoint.
Which, yeah, I think getting out in the woods, whether you're chasing a dog sitting in a tree stand or, yelling at a gobbler in a spring morning, is multifaceted. It's the mental health aspect of it. We live in a very fast-paced world nowadays. To be able to be present, like we were talking about earlier, and be outside, fresh air, not cooped up, not looking at a screen, listening to birds chirping and whatever is going on. It's there's so much value there before anything is to get harvested. And that's just kind of the cookie on top. And then you have a, delicious, nutritious, piece of meat to take home after that and cook up. That's just the cherry on top for me.
Agreed. Harvesting, I feel like a lot of hunters, not all, but I feel like there's a lot of hunters that go through it, maybe more in the waterfowl world, that go through phases. And it's like, okay, I shot my first birds. I called my first birds in, woohoo. And then you get to, like, I need to shoot limits. Limits is what makes me a hunter. And then you start to get past that, and it's like, I just want to have a good hunt. I want to experience something. I want to watch that sunrise. I want to work these birds. I feel like it's really pronounced in waterfowl hunters, but I feel like it's also in different things as well. But I don't know many people that have that drive to shoot limits of not woodcock, but limits of grouse, because I think it's just too damn hard.
Yeah, good luck.
I mean, I know guys that do it, and I know some that do it relatively consistently, and, like, they've got a lot of dogs, they've got a lot of knowledge, they've been doing this for a long time, and I'm just like, I haven't even come close.
Yeah. And the habitat. I mean, it comes down to the habitat as well. And,
right.
That bigger conservation aspect is, how do we get potential for limits of grouse on the landscape. Whether or not you're going to run into them all, shoot at them all, or get all of them, how do we get that there? And that's kind of where we come in as an organization.
And the habitat management for grouse is such a great management for really all species, because they need a little bit of everything.
Yep.
They need that new growth. They need that semi-mature. They need the mature. They really, as John called it, was a bellwether bird. Like, it really tells you about the health of your forest.
Yeah, absolutely. If the grouse are doing well, just about everything else in the forest is doing well. And that's through healthy, diverse, managed forests.
Which benefits everyone.
Exactly. Black bear, deer, wild turkey, warblers, pollinator. I mean, it's the whole facet of everything, all the way down, rabbit, everybody gets covered in those ecosystems. People, when we're talking about ruffed grouse, we usually reference edges and hunting an edge, and, the edge of an older timber stand to a younger, or a river, or this or that. That same thing applies for just about any species of game, and a lot of species that are not game animals as well.
And I think a lot, and I didn't recognize this at first until after our conversation with John, but I didn't realize how much of an impact pollinator crops have on young birds.
Yeah.
And that is something because most grouse hunters are out in the fall, and we're in, I don't know, I tend to lean towards 12 to 15-year-old cuts with a border or something like that. I have when I'm out, I have a general idea of where I find birds. Pollinator crops really aren't one of them in October or or in November, at least not where I'm finding them in the habitats I hunt. So I never really put two and two together that those have such a huge impact on young birds that are eating grubs.
Yep, on baby grouses.
Right. And that's one thing I think that Ruffed Grouse Society does a great job of, is to getting into these, to show just how much your organization does when it comes to habitat, and that level of habitat, that diversity in the habitat, where, we're also making sure, not only are you making sure grouse are good, but you're doing pollinator crops, which bees, butterflies, and everything else, which is such a huge focus. I mean, look at, what is it, Nomo May or whatever it is. Yep. I mean, there's a huge focus on pollinators right now, and you're at the forefront of it all, and you have been.
That's what we're trying, and we couldn't do it without our members.
Which the members make all these organizations. I mean, members play such a crucial role.
It's the foundation of the organization. It really is. They drive local projects. The other, kind of looping back around, is in my role, it's not all just let's go out there and raise money. Of course, that's important, and we need to do that. But it's also these type of engagement events. That's why my actual role title is engagement coordinator, is to get people out to build that community. Everything doesn't have to be a fundraiser, dog training, youth days, shoots, all sorts of other aspects of events. It's, not your commonplace fundraiser, or maybe has no element of fundraising, or birds and brews, etc., to get people out, get them engaged, share our mission as an organization, our vision of where we're going, where we've been, where we're at, and where we're headed, and get these people engaged and a part of the organization. And with a rising tide, or what is it? I'm going to butcher it. Rising tide raises all ships. That's not right, is it?
I don't know where you're going with that one. I've never heard that one.
Yeah, I just butchered that. You should probably cut that
out. But no, I mean, I will, when I talk to different people about different organizations, they always just, especially if they have any sort of a slightly bad taste in their mouth for hunting, it's always, oh, that's a hunting organization. But it's not. There's so much more to it until you open, like they said, engage with everyone. I mean, they don't know what ruffed grouse, they don't know the habitat improvement projects. They don't know everything else that's being done to better our forests, better our lands, which impacts everyone. Anybody that wants to use the land, from photography to hiking, everything.
Absolutely. It's holistic. And again, it benefits much more than just game species. especially more than the ruffed grouse and the American woodcock. But even way bigger benefits, so much more than just game species.
And I know one big event you have for introducing new folks and mentoring them is your Ruffed Grouse Camp.
That was a nice segue.
You like that?
Let's work on that.
Yeah. Sometimes I got a good one.
Yeah. So our grouse camp is coming up in September here in the great state of Wisconsin. It's our premier kind of annual R3 event. Again, recruitment, retention, and reactivation for folks interested in getting into not just ruffed grouse and American woodcock hunting, but upland hunting at large. Obviously, we take a pretty strong focus on the ruffed grouse, the king, and the American woodcock. But yeah, it's hands down my favorite event of the year. This year, it is going to be, you see here, it's September 22nd, 23rd, and 24th, where the 23rd, we have to kind of strategically do this, is going to be the opening day of woodcock as well. So both woodcock and ruffed grouse are going to be available hunted species. We do it in Eagle River, Wisconsin, which is northeast Wisconsin. All sorts of stuff. I'm sure we'll run through this, but presentations, demonstrations from a lot of our corporate partners and other folks that are interested in coming out and lending kind of their perspective, their wherewithal, their knowledge of all the things that go into hunting ruffed grouse and American woodcock, as well as 2 days, well, 2 half days, say 5-6 hours a piece of mentored hunting, where we're actually pairing folks up and getting them out in the woods behind bird dogs and chasing after these birds.
Which is amazing. I mean, not only do you have the presentation side showing these hunters what to look for in habitat, how to use different apps to locate habitat, how to do that online scouting to boots on the ground to make them successful in the field, along with like how to butcher birds, how to different ways to prepare birds and cook birds. And there's on site, the chef last year was amazing on site because I got to take part in this. Then you layer in that next level of like that mentorship, and it's not a guided hunt. Like it's not like 6 guys tagging along with one random dude, and like it's not like that. It's these super small groups, so you get to have this intimate connection not only with the dog you're hunting over, but with that mentor's knowledge, like really taking you from the ground level quickly up that ladder to get you successful in the field.
Oh, absolutely. You hit it right on the head. The purpose of Grouse Camp is not to get out there and shoot as many birds as we can. It's how can we learn this foundational knowledge for us to be better woods people, and better pursue and set ourselves up obviously for more opportunities with grouse and woodcock. Last year we had folks from 16 different states come out, and like you said, and I take it as a compliment that it's a very intimate setting. We limit registration to 80 people. Our venue's not huge. We're hunting on all public land in the northwest or northeast, little quadrant of Wisconsin, based out of Eagle River, and we don't need to overpressure that area. And we pair up 2 mentees per each mentor, so it's real small group setting. Our presentations again this year, actually, Brad, you came last year. I don't know if we explicitly said that, and I appreciate you coming out and lending a hand. This year, we're doing whole separate presentations for mentees as well as the mentors. We couldn't host this type of event without folks coming out, being gracious enough to share their time, share their knowledge, share their dogs, and get folks out in the woods. So we're doing some, I think 201 presentations and demonstrations actually it's probably like 401 for our mentors, where it's a little bit more foundational information for our mentees. And I got a list of stuff here in front of me if we want to go over it, just because I would hate to miss some of it.
Yeah, let's go over this in detail, and then we can touch base on different points as we go, or I'll just shut my mouth and let you
No,
go
man,
over the
fire away.
detail.
If something comes up, just fire away. First thing I want to do is recognize this year we kind of we added a lot since last year, and we've had some of our some folks come on as sponsors of the event. We have 4 gold habitat sponsors for Grouse Camp 2023. We have Purina, Onyx Hunt, folks from Modern Carnivore, Pike Gear. Purina, Onyx, and Pike Gear are all some of our corporate partners as a national organization. And we have 2 silver habitat sponsors as well, which is Sport Dog Brands and NSSF, which is the National Shooting Sports Foundation, their +1 program, which is a their take on an R3 program. So they're all sponsoring our Grouse Camp this year, as well as the Wisconsin DNR. We received a grant from Wisconsin DNR to cover some of our costs, because we don't want too much of a barrier of cost being prohibitive of people coming out, experiencing an event, meeting all these people, interacting with them, and learning these potentially lifelong skills. So first off, I'd like to give a huge shout out to all the folks I just mentioned there and those organizations.
And last year it was great. Like the mentors got little goodie bags from them, and they did a great job.
Oh yeah,
it was amazing. It was awesome.
We got some pretty great goodie bags.
I will agree with that statement. That statement.
Yeah. Folks from Modern Carnivore are getting a whole How to Hunt Upland Birds. It's a series that they've put together. I believe that's going to be accessible before the event, so they could go through ahead of time. Onyx has been gracious enough to donate a let me not get it wrong, a premium membership, the 1-state membership, annual membership to Onyx, as well as doing presentations, demonstrations. Purina's putting together a hell of a goodie bag. Had some stuff from Sport Dog as well. And there's going to be some kind of cool Grouse Camp RGS branded stuff that I can't quite talk about yet, but that we're going to have there too. It's an awesome time.
It was an awesome. I mean, I spent $50 on an empty bottle of booze.
I did. Yeah. That's another point. Last year we kind of jumped all in and did a whole hog pig roast, which was outstanding. I couldn't be more pleased with that. And we're bringing that back again this year. One of my chapters in Eau Claire, Wisconsin, the Chippewa Valley chapter RGS, they have made this really small batch rye whiskey called Old Rough. We did a whiskey tasting of that last year. We're going to do that as well. We'll have some live music there at, on, I believe, Friday night, Saturday night. We do big campfires after, everybody gets back in from hunting. Yeah, it's fun. We have presentations on Saturday morning, which is 9:23. Let me see. They start at 8:30 in the morning before breakfast. Everything's included besides lodging for folks that are interested in registering as well. It's 3-day. It kicks off at 5 o'clock on Friday, the 22nd, and it ends Sunday, the 24th at around 2 p.m. after folks get back in from their second mentored hunt. So in that period of time, all meals, obviously, your goodie bags, the mentored hunting, everything is included in registration. So that's pretty nice. Besides lodging, folks do need to get people coming all over the country bringing dogs and this and that. Eagle River has tons of different lodging opportunities there. That is on registers to figure out kind of themselves, but everything else is included in their registration.
And one thing I really want to say, like, people are like, "Oh, mentor hunt, like, what's the mentor is there to make really, like, I took it as a mentor, and all the mentors I talked to, because we all talked, like, a lot of us became friends, like, we had never met each other before, a lot of these mentors, and we established friendships because we're all there for the same reason, to make sure that this continues on. And we take it very seriously, and it's not like us hunting over our dogs and you're tagging along. Like I didn't bring a gun with me. I didn't hunt. I was there to work my dog and make sure that the mentees learned and were able to experience what drives me so much to be in the woods. It was to share that experience, and I can't do that necessarily if I'm hunting. So that's like, I don't have a gun. I'm controlling, like I'm working my dog, and my focus is on making sure not only are you two safe, but that you two are learning and also experiencing the same thing.
Oh yeah, it's invaluable, and we couldn't do it without folks like you that came out and mentored. And to have that kind of foundational knowledge in the form of, they're not formal per se, but presentations, demonstrations, you get that on Saturday morning from 8:30 to 11:30, presentations, and then we peel out and join up with mentors and go out in the field to get back after that to have the presentations and then be able to directly apply that right after you learn some of that stuff is invaluable. And then this year we added a whole second day of mentored hunting. So on Sunday, we're going to be pairing people up with a different mentor and going out again on Sunday morning as well. So
that's going to be awesome.
2 different perspectives of hunting with folks. Everybody has a different, knowledge of hunting and their perspective and this and that, to be able to pair them up with 2 different people and spend time out in the woods in late September after learning and being exposed to so much of this foundational knowledge and being able to connect and interact with folks there all weekend long. It's a really good event.
I agree.
I'm glad to have the opportunity to host it.
And people could, I know you said 16 states. I know the father and son that hunted with me, they came all the way from Kansas City, Missouri.
Yeah.
That's a drive.
California, Texas, and Florida last year, I believe, were the furthest. Those are the ones that are sticking out in my head as some of the furthest. But yeah, we had 16 different states last year.
And that's awesome. And it was everything from, like, when I say father and son, I mean 55 and 35. Or maybe it was 60 and 40. I mean, They like, the son was my age and he brought his dad and they had never grouse hunted before. So it's not just father and son, like young, like dad with like a 12-year-old kid that wants, the range of age is from young, like, I think there some younger kids last year. I'm trying to remember. Was there any youth year? I think there was. I'm almost positive there was.
Yeah. Not young, but we had some youth
like,
there.
Yeah. Like youth hunters, not like toddlers or anything like, but like youth hunters,
all
the way up to all the way up to
semi-retired,
if not retired. Yeah.
We had a couple guys in their 70s come out last year.
Men, women.
To have that, to hear the stories after, as the night's kind of winding down around the campfire or in the tent, it's just, it's a good time.
I agree. And it's a great experience, especially for those looking to get into grouse hunting or woodcock hunting, or really upland hunting in general, just in general hunting behind a dog.
Absolutely. Yeah, I have to agree entirely.
And this is what year is this? How many, like, this isn't, I know it's the second year you've been involved, but I know they've done this prior. So what is it? Do you know?
This is the second year I'm going to be doing it. Dave Johnson, my predecessor, is a gentleman that birthed this idea of Grouse Camp. So absolutely credit where credit's due. I think there was 3 before I took it over. And then, there was 1 or 2 before COVID, and then the COVID stuff kind of put a hamper on everything, but yeah.
And every year it gets just a little bit better.
That's the point. That is absolutely the point. We listen to folks. What do you want to hear? That was the one thing when, we had folks from 16 different states, like I said, and come in, and I felt like we needed to give them more opportunity to be out in the woods. So
Agreed.
that's why we added that whole another half day of mentored hunting to get them out there.
And that's huge. I know last year, my two mentees, they didn't want to take part in the seminar Sunday morning, so I took them out again. They did get a second day of hunting out of me.
Yeah, the seminars the second day, there was
nothing against your seminars the second
of attendance.
Yeah. But as you said, like they drove hours and they're like, I would really like to get out in the field. And what they really wanted to do was they wanted to get their young dog out in the field. And I didn't want their dog out with my dog. So we took their dog out the second day instead of mine, which is fine. Yeah. Which is great. Let the dog get in the woods and let's see what happens.
Yeah, that's a great point. A lot of people, will reach out to me and ask us, hey, I'm from Tennessee or this, or some other state. I've never hunted ruffed grouse before. I'm really interested in doing it. Can I bring my dog? Am I allowed to? Absolutely. We encourage folks to bring their own dogs. If you're learning to hunt grouse for the first time, there's a lot of steps along the way, and the same thing applies for your dog. So we should have took account of how many different breeds of dogs were at last year's event. That would have been a fun kind of metric to be able to report on. We have dogs all over the place. So I encourage people to bring their dogs. I encourage people to, if they're interested in ruffed grouse hunting or woodcock hunting, to come out, to give it a try, to connect with people, the different experiences and stories folks have. We had guys that, for somewhere down south and somebody else up north swapping hunts. Well, you hunt bobwhite quail. Oh, that's great. Well, we can come down, and just the camaraderie at large and the connections people have, that it's such a beautiful time of year in the Northwoods, eating good food and hanging out is top notch.
I would agree with everything that's said there. And it was a lot of friendships made. It was a really good event, and it was a really good way to, as a mentor, give back also.
Yeah. And again, we couldn't do it without our mentors. So huge shout out to them.
I mean, it's like, we joked about the goodie bag, but I mean, like you got a name thing that said like you were a mentor, and it was on a sport dog lanyard. I'm like, how cool is that? Right. Yeah. Like it was on a little sport dog, like a little sport dog whistle lanyard. I'm like, that's cool. Like it's just, and that's like, just, it's not even attention to detail, like, but it's just like that silly little, like, it's almost like an Easter egg. Like that's like, if you weren't a dog trainer, if you didn't have a dog, you literally have no idea what this was for.
Yeah.
But
but now you can hang it around your rearview mirror. Yeah.
Right. Exactly.
Yeah. Exactly. I mean, it's not all about it, but we have a pretty good goodie bag this year. I'm excited for that. It's always fun.
It's being able to share that experience and really bring up, like, and it's a great way for your R3 program to like really like truly dig in.
Yeah. And again, it's we have all these different presentations and demonstrations, kind of, you could say classroom setting. Then we go out to the field. We have a bird tent, checking in birds, sexing, aging birds when they're coming in from a field, which immediately goes into a cooking bird breakdown demonstration, which folks loved that last year, into our, evening festivities or dinners, or on Saturday night, there's going to be the whiskey tasting. Trying to line up some live music to have there on Saturday night, which should be a good time too, and be able to hang out on the campfire after that and do it all again the next day. Wake up to a nice warm breakfast and coffee. Everybody meet under, we have a huge venue tent that we rent. Try to do as much of this outside as we can in the morning, and then head back out on Sunday with a different mentor and be able to experience that with somebody else again. Really invaluable and fun like that. I can't reiterate that enough. It is fun.
It is. And
it's work for me, you know what I mean, up until that. But once we're live, I'm having a great time.
And I know some people might be thinking, I don't want to sit in seminars. All I want to do is hunt. And last year, even being an experienced grouse hunter, there was things I learned in those seminars. So, I mean,
I learned stuff last year.
I mean, honestly, if you're a new grouse hunter and you decide to do this, like, don't dread the seminars, like, bring a notepad, because there's going to be a lot of knowledge heading your way that really cuts that learning curve down. Not only is your mentor going to do it, but those presentations last year about habitat, and it was incredible.
Yeah. Here, I'll run through what we have on the docket. I
Yeah.
got an agenda here in front of me. So again, I've said we have 2 different presentations that we're doing for the mentees and the mentors. There's opportunity for folks in the mentee category to go over to the mentor presentations, but not the other way around. So for the mentees, we have gear demo. Brent Pike from Pike Gears coming out, explaining that, the purpose and kind of the reasoning behind some of his gear specifically, but the bigger picture of selecting the right gear, a field for the right time of the year. We're having a mapping and navigation, e-scouting presentation. Ben Bergen of Onyx Hunt. Next, habitat, ecology, strategies, tactics, right? How do we apply all of this, where the birds live, what they're doing, different times a year to actually be successful when you're field hunting them? That's going to be done by some RGS staff. Dog nutrition and season prep, kind of the basics and overview of that by Dr. Ruth Ann Lobos. She is a vet with Purina. She's coming out. And then, another thing here is the safety element of being out in a field, hunting, especially hunting potentially a new species for some people, or a completely different type of hunting altogether. That's important. We want to recognize that with our mentors. So we're doing a safety briefing of intro to hunting with dogs, right? If you've never hunted with a dog before, that's a whole new thing. So what do you need to keep in mind approaching that, and making sure your day is successful in more ways than one?
I stole this, and I don't remember who I stole it from, so I can't give credit where credit is due here. But it's 3 rules. I've got 3 rules when hunting: don't shoot my dog, don't shoot my dog, don't shoot each other.
Yep.
And I don't remember who I stole it from. I don't know if I saw it on a TV show, but I'm like, it's so true. Don't shoot my dog. Don't shoot my dog. Okay, don't shoot each other.
Yeah.
And it's kind of a great way to start, it's a lighthearted thing, right? Because it's kind of like, but it's not at the same time. You know what I mean? It's kind of it's a lightish hearted way to really show you the seriousness of that dog is on the ground in front of you, and birds are going to be over their head.
Yeah.
You have to pay attention to where the dog is, where the bird is, before you just start shooting.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, there's an element of all hunting, but
right
now we're out there with firearms. So to have that, needs to have that safety component as well. And we do that right before we break on Saturday to send people out. You have bagged lunches. Everybody gets sandwich, chips, cookies, that kind of thing. Head out in the field and get after it for 11:30 to 5:30. We need folks back by 6:30 this year. Get back into the bird tent, age sex birds, and then cooking demonstration, and then it's into dinner. That's on Saturday for the mentees. The mentors, starting off, we have Dr. Ruth Ann Lobos, again from Purina. She's going to be doing an emergency care in the field presentation for folks that have these dogs, of what is it that you should be looking for if XYZ goes wrong, how can you best be prepared for that, and then what to do in the moment to set yourself up. Brent Pike is doing a gear demo from Pike Gear also for the mentors. Mike Kortnoff of Wisconsin Trappers Association is coming out to do a presentation on how to get your dog out of a trap if that was terribly unfortunate. But if that's something you found yourself in, it's funny because I just actually ordered myself a pair of snare cutters there.
Also, another thing I would add to your vest, if you don't, is I think mine are 36-inch zip ties.
Yep. For common bears? Yep.
So much quicker than
I don't have them yet,
quicker than the shoelace method. I mean, I still have a rope in there still from way back in the head, but big zip ties, because then it also locks it. So every time you get that a little bit more, you're taking more and more pressure off that dog.
That is an excellent point. Onyx is doing an advanced mapping, navigation, and e-scouting presentation. And then we kind of release folks to the field. So 2 different presentations, demonstrations, presentations going on for the mentees and the mentors. There's going to be a ton of learning happening for all sorts of folks.
That's awesome.
And then they get out in the field on opening day of woodcock and hopefully get after it.
That'll be good. It'll be good. One thing I had to learn, like, remind, it's hard. Like, it's really hard. There's so many leaves that time of year. You do not get great sight picture at birds.
Nope.
You have to be quick.
Yeah.
And like, you have to, like, it's hard. And like, I try to call it out real quick, like grouse or woodcock. Like this next year, I might just call out shoot. Like, just shoot, or bird. Like, I don't want them to have to think, like, if I call out grouse, can I shoot a grouse? I don't want them to think if I call out the word woodcock, because if I'm shooting with someone, like if I'm with my regular hunting buddies, I'm gonna be like, grouse, woodcock, like, you know what I mean? Like, depending on where we're at for bag limits, like I might specifically say grouse, like we're not gonna have a limit of grouse. So I might say woodcock because we could have very well have a limit of woodcock and we don't want to shoot, right? But for the mentee, like for them, I want to make it simpler because there was time, like they hesitate. And if with how many leaves are on the trees that time of year, you hesitate, you might not ever see that bird again.
Yeah, that's why, that's real strategic. It's a great point to bring up. That is why we strategically picked this date so woodcock is open. We don't want any, we don't want to set anybody up for confusion out there. No, if it's a grouse or a woodcock, I mean, anybody should know what they're shooting at, or
right
before they're pulling the trigger. But to reduce that, certainly important on our side of things.
And we're in an area where it's not like we're going to run into spruce grouse or anything crazy like that we didn't, like sharptail. I mean, we're not going to run into any of that.
No.
Like that's not the right habitat. They're not over there. I mean, pretty much you kick a bird up off the ground, short of a Tweety bird, it's going to be the species we're looking for.
Yeah.
Which is good. And then, so your schedule on Sunday is breakfast and then right out into the field?
Yeah, so Saturday after that, we come back. Like I said, bird tent, cooking demonstrations, dinner. We are going to do a fun kind of raffle situation there Saturday night. Some really, really good prizes for folks. Some live music, campfire. Oh, I gotta make sure my computer doesn't stop on me. Campfire on Saturday night. And then we do it all over again on Sunday morning. So breakfast in the morning under the tent, and then we split everybody up to get out hunting again. We heard, like you said earlier, some folks that had driven or just real eager. They decided to skip some of the presentations, demonstrations last year on Sunday. So we said, nope, we're going to feed you, give you lunch, and get out there with your mentors and have a good time. And then really at the end of that, it concludes at 1 p.m. and some folks are going to be coming back to the venue after that or whatnot. But that is the wrap up of the event. Give some folks, if they're not too crazy far away, opportunity to get back or hang out for a couple more days and experience the beauties of the Northwoods in Wisconsin that time of year.
It's going to be awesome. It's going to be an awesome event. I'm really hoping I can make it again. Got some crazy work stuff beforehand, but I'm pretty sure I'm going to be able to get it sorted out and make it in time. So I'm really hopeful I can make it again because it is such an amazing event. It's that, I mean, not only is there, like, do the mentors bond with each other, but you also bond with the mentees. You bond with just like-minded individuals that want to be in the outdoors, that recognize the conservation and recognize, like, just how great upland hunting is.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, we had people from all sorts of different walks of life, all sorts of different demographics, men, women, younger kids, seasoned vets, first timers, very good, knowledgeable Western hunters that haven't pursued hunting rough grouse before. Just the mix of folks there is it's pretty extraordinary, especially with only 80 people coming in on the mentee side of things. It's a great mix of people.
How would someone go about finding that event if they wanted to take part?
Yeah, so you can find it right online. You go to roughgrousesociety.org. See if I can do this without clicking through myself. You go to events, and then an event calendar will pop up. Again, it is September 22nd, 23rd, and 24th. It kicks off at 5 o'clock on Friday, the 22nd. So you don't have to be up there first thing in the morning by any means. We give folks about a 2-hour window to come in, and then we kind of get into it. Last year, some people driving further away or whatnot weren't able to get in right then, but that's fine. But you do not want to miss the pig roast at 7:30 on Friday. But you can, right there on the event page, sign up and register. We have 2 different options. One is for folks with an existing membership to Ruffed Grouse Society and American Woodcock Society, or without. So if you already have a current membership, it's a little bit $35 less than if you do not. All folks that attend, we do need to have a membership to attend. So that's why we're offering those 2 options there. Earlier today, I checked, and we were just over 60 folks signed up already. So there's
a little bit of time. There's a little
you
space
still got
left.
A chance, but yeah, I would. It's like hunting those early season birds. I wouldn't let them. I wouldn't wait too long.
Right, right.
It is gonna pass. But yeah, we do still have some spots. Love to have folks out. I know that we're certainly going to get to our 80. We're a bit ahead of it than we were this time last year. So if it's something that you're interested in, get online, register. If you have any direct questions, folks can get a hold of me. My contact is right there at the bottom of the page with the flyer, any of the stuff corresponding to Grouse Camp. Otherwise, my email is Gabe S as in Stone. So Gabe's at roughgrousesociety.org. If anybody has any questions, concerns, just wants to know a little bit more about Grouse Camp and what we have going on there, they can feel free to reach out directly to me.
And I'll put links in the description here for everyone to easily find the RGS page, and I can throw a link right. And I will not put a link in to his email, but it's very easy to find it through the link from Ruffed Grouse Society. You know, one degree of separation to try to keep a little spam away from you.
Yeah, I appreciate that. I appreciate that.
But you can always message me as well, and I can get you in touch with Gabe. That's very easy to do. Otherwise, you can find his contact info right through the Ruffed Grouse Society.
Cool. I appreciate that, Brad. Thanks again for coming out last year. I understand that time of year is busy. Personal stuff, works, everything, changing of the season, time of the season, what have it be. But we'd love to have you out again, and I appreciate you coming out last year as well.
Absolutely. I'm hopeful I'll make it again this year, and I appreciate you coming on the show today and talking a little history about how you got into this and what Ruffed Grouse Society has going on for members and Grouse Camp.
Yeah, no, I appreciate that. This is one funny last thing before we leave here. I've been looking at your jerseys behind you. I'm assuming they're fishing. My screen's smaller on my computer here. I'm assuming they're fishing jerseys. So,
they are.
Man, we need to have a sweet Ruffed Grouse Society, American Woodcock Society jersey, upland jersey. Wouldn't that be neat?
I think that would be pretty cool, to be honest. Like, I think there would be, like, there you go. Maybe that's something for Ruffed Grouse Camp. Maybe you can offer a jersey. Like,
I don't know. Time's running out. That might be on
not this year, but a future year. You can give people the option to purchase an official Ruffed Grouse Camp Society jersey.
Yeah, that might be neat.
Now you'll have to take it one step farther and be like, hey, my gold sponsors, you're going to kick in a little money to have your name on this jersey. Like what are you going to do here? Right.
You got to think outside the box, man.
Right. So, well, all right, sir. I appreciate you coming on. To all my listeners, thanks again for tuning in. I wouldn't do this without you. And until next time, keep chasing that experience.